So it was November of 2010. The Lord spoke very clearly to me and said, "You're going to resign tonight."
We had no idea what we were doing. I remember our last Sunday in February of 2011 at the church that we were serving at, like being emotional and knowing that when we left that day, we had no idea what was next.
Right.
We grieved a long time. We grieved of not of what we had. We grieved walking away from what was such a great church.
I think that so many people are under a misconception that we tried to plant a church. Like, we wanted to plant a church. We left a church with the
Right.
desire to go somewhere and, like, we can do it ourselves and we can do it better and
No.
we know how to fix problems and all of that. And if I could say anything, I would say that that was so far from the truth of where our hearts were.
Right.
I mean, first of all, we were, like, brokenhearted.
We were. A business meeting had taken place at that church, and a lot of people found themselves in one way or another in the same boat we were in, and that they felt like it was time for them to go. Okay, God, if there's something behind us, there has to be something in front of us.
God gave me a vision, which, like, we were all getting visions, and it was like so in depth with the Holy Spirit. And the vision he gave me was that we were climbing a ladder, and it was like, if you can picture like climbing this ladder, and it was like clouded overhead and clouded below, but that we were all climbing this ladder, not knowing where we were going, but also kind of forgetting about the hurt of the past and not being able to see behind us.
For those 2 years prior, I was part of the group of men that we had been praying on Tuesday nights together, and the Lord had been moving our hearts, shifting our hearts towards something that we didn't realize he was doing. We didn't perceive that it would be a new church. We just knew it was something that God wanted to do.
That prayer meeting had been going on for 2 years and really was what was propelling and motivating us not to leave a church or start a church or become a part of any movement. It was just seeking the Lord. In our house that night, I said, well, listen, let's grab coffee and donuts and we'll meet here on Sunday morning. And in the back of my mind at that point, I think, it was 11 something at night. We were just emotionally exhausted. And in the back of my mind, I was thinking, we'll do this for a week or two until the dust settles. And this church will get a new senior pastor and everybody will be able to go back and everything will go back to normal there. And Ashley and I will go find a worship leading position at some other church somewhere else in the country. Thursday at noon, I get a call from my cousin and he says, hey, Zach, do you want me to rent chairs? And I was like, well, no, I have chairs in my house. Like, why would we rent chairs?
And I called Zach and said, hey, there's like a lot of people that are broken and have no place to go. So what do you think about meeting at Ron's shop? And he said, yeah, absolutely. And I said, well, we're gonna need some chairs. So I got back on the phone with Ron and Ron said, just call Taylor Rental, they'll deliver chairs. So we ordered 100 chairs and not knowing what to expect, but showed up there early Sunday morning and we all had breakfast, which was something we carried on for quite a while. Just joining as family, which is really what this all started from, was just family. Whether you were related or not, you were family, and we all felt that way.
So you were still on ministerial probation.
I was on ministerial.
He couldn't speak.
I couldn't share.
He couldn't share or lead worship.
Well, to honor it, even though this wasn't like affiliated with the denomination that I was under probation under, I was still a credential holder. And so to honor that, I didn't preach or lead worship while this was unresolved. And so I played the piano that morning, and everybody brought breakfast, and something really cool happened.
When I opened the doorknob of that garage of that shop, peace, that lamb set that peace in my heart. And all the worries disappeared. Everything disappeared, and I knew I was home.
Because the glory was shining so brightly that they couldn't even see it. All right? So it says, shouldn't we expect far greater glory under the new way, now that the Holy Spirit is giving life?
It was a safe place. It was a hiding place. It was a place where we could gather and really be real about the pain that we had all just come through.
One of my kids, one of my older ones, said that they had never experienced divorce, but leaving a church felt like the closest thing that they thought that they would ever experience. None of us were interested in church shopping. We weren't interested in going from place to place and trying to find a church home. We felt like we had home with each other already.
Heather, do you have anything to say this morning? Do you have anything? Joe? Good. John Minash.
For 6 weeks, we met in that warehouse every Sunday. And so I remember we had a little family meeting at the 6-week mark, and Lilia said, she raised her hand and she said, Zach, she said, is this a church? And I had never been asked that before. I said, I don't know if we're a church, but I know we're the church. And I know God's doing something with us right now.
John, you ready to bring it this morning?
Yeah.
All right, rock and roll. Let's make
My birthday message.
Oh yeah, it is your birthday, isn't it?
And I remember David saying to me one night in our house, he said, Zach, he said, the harder thing is usually the right thing. And at that point, both things seemed hard, but one was definitely a lot harder in my natural thinking. I felt like it was so important that we take this season, that season, however long it was gonna be, and really let the Lord pull out, tear down and pull out whatever was in us, whatever ideas or preconceived notions or whatever misgivings we had had about the church. We needed to offer the Lord back a season for him to really tear that down, root it out, so that something new could be rebuilt. We fell in love with watching people heal. And so coming in, that's how we grew.
Just 1 week turned to the next, into months. And I remember standing close to the door one Sunday and someone walked by and said, like, where do we leave our tithes? And I was like, nowhere. Like, we don't have a name. We don't have, it was so
In that
early
cardboard
on.
box.
And, yeah, and then people just started like leaving money at the door to like pay for like the few things that we had, some rental equipment, and to help Zach and Ashley, who didn't have an income at the time.
How do we collect money? I know, let's not take offering. We decided, no, let's just put some boxes by the door and see how it works out. Till this day, 11 years, there hasn't been a Sunday, a week, where we have ever been short.
Every week we just kept thinking, like, what's next? What's next? Like, where is this gonna lead us?
I said, we're going to be called The Remnant, which is a fragmented group that says, we're going to seek after the Lord. In Haggai, he called a certain group that got together The Remnant. It was the remnant of the church, the ones who were like saying, man, I need something. And then he assures that group, the former glory will not compare to the new glory. And so, yeah, that's how we were called The Remnant. And then it was thought of, do we make the name of the church The Remnant? And we felt that was kind of prideful. We're sitting there having this discussion, and the name came up, His Providence, and everybody voted on His Providence, and here we are, His Providence, His providential work, His divine nature. It's just like just too cool.
And I just remember we were talking about it, and then, maybe an hour and a half or so had gone by, and I just looked at him and I was like, bro, I think this is a church. And he was like, dude, I think you're right. And then I remember the conversation kind of went like, well, we need a pastor. And everyone there in the circle had a job except for Zach. And so we were like, you're it. All of a sudden we started realizing with what the Lord was doing, that this was what the Lord desired. And that the Lord specifically chose a worshiper to lead his people back into his presence.
So I met Zach when I was, I think I was 12 or 13. He had become the worship pastor at the church that I had grown up in my whole life. I had only known Zach for about a year, and he had asked me to start playing with him.
Tommy, is there anything that you want to say to anybody that missed this morning? Okay.
Zach as being put in place as the leader of the church and the head of the church. I feel like he's been such a good steward of what the Lord has given him, and he has it prioritized right, and he comes in every Sunday prioritizing that. No matter what goes on today, it's, we're moving where the Spirit's moving. And I think, whether worship is half an hour or whether worship is 3 hours, it's always about prioritizing the Spirit and the Spirit of God and where the Spirit's moving.
It's our heart's desire, and always has been our heart's desire, to see the presence of the Lord manifested in every single service.
I don't feel like we've lost sight of what the Lord implanted in us early on in the early days of the church, and I think we really hold true to that and really try to focus on, how do we continue to feel like home? How do we create an atmosphere where we're a family, but be able to still leave room for others at the table?
Everybody knows that there's always kids running around this place, and I feel like, what do you do when you're at home? Your kids are running around, and I feel like it's easy to let the kids do that here because it truly feels like you're home. So I'm excited to see Audrey grow up in a place where I know the Lord has placed leadership, and honestly, just people that know how to love.
You actually can hear our children's ministry because we have no doors in the sanctuary.
Yeah.
But you can hear like 180 kids like worshiping. I think there's something about it where the children are allowed to be in the atmosphere. It does something in them. There's deposits in them. I love the fact that we have families that their children are right next to them during worship and experiencing the Lord.
Knowing that the Spirit of God is here and is moving and is present and is active and is alive makes it such an easy decision to say, yeah, of course I want my kids to grow up here, because of all those things that I feel is what I want instilled in her.
I'm putting this on YouTube. Hello, children. Nice.
There's probably not a happier Sunday that I have when I can look around and see all of my kids at this point, at their stages, all plugged in to a ministry, serving and just, somehow giving back.
If you want to volunteer, there's a place for you here. I prayed for my husband to be involved to minister somehow, and now he is very busy. So be careful what you pray for.
For years, and actually Ashley and I still do it to this day, we would turn to each other on a Sunday morning, and as people are walking in, and be like, they're still coming, because I think for so long we just thought it was like we were on a week-to-week basis of like, what was this going to be? And I think it's still very overwhelming to us to look out and see people here and to see what the Lord's doing and watch lives be changed.
I remember the Lord saying to me one day, you're never to measure the success of this church by a head count, but only by the transformation of lives. There's no greater purpose that we could serve than to see His glory fill the earth, one person, one family, one community at a time.
Okay, this is the first Sunday at the Remnant. Welcome home.